Josh Holland is joining us today of The Nation to talk about, well, what else? To talk about the Pence-Harris vice presidential debate that we all just saw last night. I'm Julianna Forlano. It's great to be here with you today. Josh, welcome aboard. So happy that you're here with me today. This is great.
Hi, Juliana. That was difficult. I had some technical difficulties. I apologize for that.
Not a problem. I'm just glad that you made it. I thought perhaps the
maybe I lost my mind.
Maybe
that I lost my mind. It could have happened.
I enjoyed very much your tweeting last night during the debate. It made me feel more sane, very sane. So thank you for that.
That's a surprising conclusion.
Well, I thought we'd maybe do something a little kind of different today. I have some of the clips from the debate that maybe I'm going to play, and then we can just do it, right? So
all right, let's run with it.
And thanks to, if you're just joining us, Josh Holland, contributor to The Nation, alternate, and the host of We've Got Issues. And don't we? I think we do.
Big issues.
Okay, just quickly before we get into the clips, your takeaways from the debate last night, your thoughts?
It was very unpleasant. I found it to be an unpleasant debate. And, Mike Pence used a debate strategy. It's a fallacious debate strategy known as the Gish Gallop.
Ooh.
Or the Gish Gallop.
Never heard of it.
This is a strategy. I took debate in high school, actually, because I'm that kind of geek. And it's a strategy where you throw out so many specious arguments, dishonest claims, that your opponent is unable to address them. And that's what Mike Pence was doing.
Is that what we were seeing from Kamala?
That's what we saw.
I really wanted her to just hit him hard or just push away the bullshit and say something like, listen, this is what this election is about. They're trying to take away your health care. Yeah, she did. But I wanted more.
I was very frustrated with that as well. But I mean, and I tweeted out, I think Kamala is being overwhelmed here by this torrent of bullshit. Some people took that as a criticism of Harris. It wasn't intended that way, because this is not an honest way to debate. And it is very hard to counter, because you can't ever get in a point on your own. You can't make an affirmative argument if you are spending your entire time fact checking your opponent. It's just not possible.
This, other than a policy understanding of Mike Pence, this was really my first engagement watching him talk. I'm not a right-wing radio fan. He is worse than Trump, or he is equally bad. I mean, Trump is obviously crazy and abusive.
Yes.
But Pence comes at you with the I love Jesus messaging and the calm kind of voice. And it's just vile. It's
people like Pence frighten me more than Trump, in a sense, because he is smoother when he, just floods the zone with bullshit. He's less transparent. It's easier to see people think, oh, well, maybe this guy is a serious guy. I find his type more dangerous than Trump, who's a buffoon.
Can anyone explain to me? I can understand why Trump can lie and obfuscate and just be a general, self-involved narcissist, because he's a businessman. But Mike Pence, he's a politician. Isn't he supposed to be like the
thou shalt not lie?
Yeah, thou shalt not lie. The evangelical prince of tides. I wasn't expecting to be bowled over by as much negativity and evil, and I really wanted Harris to really hit back harder.
I mean, as unpleasant as it was, the silver lining is that it doesn't matter. Nobody will remember the vice presidential debate in 2 days, probably. The story today, the focus today, is entirely on Donald Trump withdrawing from the next presidential debate. The virtual debate. Did you discuss this earlier on the show?
No, actually, we just started the show right before you got here, just a little bit early, because you're it today, me and you.
All right, good. Well, I mean, let me state the obvious. Donald Trump, by withdrawing from the second presidential debate and saying that is because it is virtual, is giving us the first solid information about his health status, We have not heard a consistent story from the White House. There is absolutely zero chance that Donald Trump would skip the debate if he could stand there for 90 minutes without coughing and wheezing and gasping for breath.
Yeah.
So, and
he's just looking for any excuse to.
He was looking for an excuse, and he needed that. He needed that badly, because I said on Monday, I said, look, the timeline that we're being given by the White House makes no sense. You do not get hospitalized on a Friday and then you're all good to go on a Tuesday.
He's supposed to still be in his 14-day quarantine by next Tuesday. He would still be in.
I think that the way that their official, I don't even know, because we don't know when he was diagnosed. I mean, that's the fundamental problem, is we don't know when he first tested positive. So we don't know when the clock started. So we always say, well, 14-day quarantine. From when? From when does that 14-day start? So my feeling is he's
actively ill. So it would be at least starting from today if he feels better right now. And this is putting Vice President Biden in danger.
Well,
if we're going to be live.
The debate commission. So the sequence of events is that the debate commission said that this will be a virtual debate.
Right.
And they will debate remotely. They will not be in contact for that reason.
And that was because of Trump having COVID, right?
You gotta
because they wanted to pull the mics when Trump just went off.
No, that was just an added benefit. It seems very clear to me. Look, let's remember that Trump becomes extremely upset when his own surrogates and advisors get too much media attention. So just going on cable TV will get you, too often will get you on Trump's bad side. He doesn't like anybody else to have the spotlight. And let me make this clear. Donald Trump can withdraw from that debate. He cannot cancel that debate. Joe Biden, if he chooses, can go and spend 90 minutes doing a town hall that has been
Please do that.
Widely anticipated and extensively advertised, right? He can go and can do his own 90 minutes town hall. That's an option that he has. Mm-hmm. He may choose, given his position in the polls, to not debate without Trump, just because when you're 9 points up in the national polls, do no harm kind of comes into play, and you don't want to have, God forbid, some sort of gaffe that would make the news. So it's possible that he won't choose that.
And that is why you believe that this is about Trump's health.
For me, it's inconceivable that it could be about anything else.
I find it unusual that we're not getting reports of Trump's health, not only Trump's health, but Chris Christie and some of these other folks who have tested positive.
I mean, it's unusual in a functional democracy. It's pretty on brand for this regime, honestly.
Well said, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it would be unusual with anybody else in the White House. Absolutely. It'd be aberrant and a huge story. And I think it should be a huge story that we don't know the condition of the guy with the nuclear codes, and we don't know his mental capacity, et cetera, et cetera. That should be a huge story. But I mean, in the age of Trump, it's it is kind of par for the course. They're not. Look, they had a super spreader event at Amy Coney Barrett's introduction, and they're not contact tracing intentionally because they don't want to find cases. And they're putting many, many lives at risk. Those people who attended that ceremony in the Rose Garden, they returned to dozens of states. They didn't stay in Washington, D.C. They flew across the country.
In planes, often sometimes with other people.
Yes. And they are, by not contact tracing, by not isolating those people, they're putting other people at risk, because the politics of it are so damaging for Trump, right? I mean, this all focuses the attention, the media's attention. The central storyline is, Trump's mishandling of the coronavirus crisis coming home to roost, right? Coming back to bite him on the ass. And,
that's actually the first clip we have here of Kamala Harris wasting no time making it clear that Trump has blood on his hands because of his neglect here. So let's take a look-see at this bad boy.
Wow, this is so professional.
I know. Look, I can even click this button and then make our names go away like that. Okay, let's do it.
Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts.
Hit the facts.
110,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing.
It's a lot.
On January 28th, the vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan.
She said it.
I mean, you know, there's the reason that Pence was just a spigot of lies and so shameless is because he has a catastrophic record to defend. I mean, it's really that simple. This is the heart of it. You know, Donald Trump has under Donald Trump, I shouldn't give too much power to the president to control the economy, but under Donald Trump, we have had the worst job record in the history of job record, you know, statistics. The worst. We have a raging out of control pandemic.
You see, now she seemed very calm there. I would have been far less calm, and that's possibly why I'm not running for vice president. You know, she was like, people are dead. And I wish she had been like, people are dead. You know, and
yeah,
even in tone, I kind of wish she had made the point.
The reality is that, and we saw this with Obama as well, there is a tendency for Black candidates to be rightfully concerned about pundits saying that they looked angry or right, emotional. This is something, it's a handicap. They have to rein in their passion because of the punditry, because of implicit racial bias, right?
Yeah.
So
there's that.
It's a real thing. So she was calm and cool and
Kamala.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
if you mispronounce her
name. These things are extremely rehearsed. You know, they're all planned out, and everything that you're seeing is a reflection of, you know, strategy discussions, et cetera, et cetera.
Josh, this thing that Trump is doing with his super spreading event and going back places, he is literally doing the thing that he said at the beginning of his campaign. If I shot someone on Fifth Avenue, people would still come out and vote for me. He is basically killing people, and people are, according to the lawn signs in this area, going to go out and still vote for him. What do you make of the insanity of that, disjointed reality that people are living in?
Well, you know, I have a friend who pays attention to politics, but not that closely. And she is always asking me, like, how is it that these people can still support Trump? She does not understand it. And I always tell her, you know, it's as painful as it may be, tune into Fox for an hour. Tune into Fox for an hour. And if you tune in to Fox for an hour, you know, I think
the end of the world comes if you get a Democrat.
It'll be quickly apparent. But not only that, it's also Trump is doing a great job. If you consume the conservative media, and that's where you get your information, and from your self-selected friends on Facebook and the memes that they're sharing there, it's clear that Donald Trump is one of the best presidents we've ever had.
Well, that's what Mike Pence's response was to Kamala's Kamala, sorry. Kamala's, what she said about the coronavirus. Here he is saying that could have been worse, basically, was his response.
Yeah.
When you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president
January?
didn't take the unprecedented step,
Second week of March, right?
The American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million.
There's nothing
Americans.
unprecedented about that, by
That's
the
the
way. We did
reality.
this in the
And they
1918
also-
pandemic.
Wait, let me pause this. Say it again.
Sorry, there's nothing unprecedented about this. Other countries shut down much more of their economy. And of course, we shut down much of our economy during the 1918 flu pandemic. So, sorry. I don't mean to interrupt the vice president.
No, please.
But he's full of shit, and I need to point that out.
I was wondering when you were going to say the word shit.
I'm
We haven't
just
even
saying,
gotten to the fly yet, and
yeah.
but you did great.
Yeah, I've been holding it back.
You've been holding it back. Oh, well, okay. We're moving on now. This was okay. Anyway, Harris pointed.
Can I just interject one thing, because
Sure.
this is immediately after that what he just said. He claimed that Donald Trump shut down travel from China and Europe.
Oh, yeah, right.
And
What's with that meme? That just is like, he said that 15 times. They asked him about voter fraud, and he's like, Trump shut down travel from China. He just kept pounding away.
So it's a first of all, let's just be clear. It's a brazen lie. But they also say that Joe Biden called it xenophobic, right? And I don't know that Joe Biden actually did call it xenophobic, but assuming that he did, it is a brazen lie, because what Trump did was he shut down travel for non-U.S. citizens from China to the United States. And hundreds of flights, after that order was given, arrived in the United States. Planes never stopped flying from China to the United States. And the same with Europe. Let me point that out. And they let U.S. citizens re-enter the country with minimal screening or no screening whatsoever, and without requiring them to quarantine. So this was basically the thing that gave us the worst outbreak in the world. Trump did even worse with Europe, because he said that he was going to shut down all travel. And what that created was a rush of Americans trying to get home. He said he was going to shut down all travel in 72 hours. And tens of thousands of Americans ran to the airport and packed themselves onto flights and came to New York, where, again, they were not given screening or asked to quarantine. And so it's a lie that Trump shut down travel from China and the United States and Europe. And it is it was a disaster because it was xenophobic. It's a disaster because they treated foreigners differently than Americans, and the virus doesn't care about your citizenship status, right? So if the virus is coming into the United States in an American's body, that is no different than if it is coming into the United States in a French person's body or a Chinese person's body.
So what they could have done that would have been at least marginally better is test people for fevers before they got on planes, even if they didn't shut it down, or they did, or whatever.
Look, other countries, what they did was they mandated that people quarantine for 2 weeks upon arrival. And that's how you do it. I'm not sure if we had the rapid antibody test at that point. I don't believe they had been released at that point. But you can, we did have PCR tests, and you put people in quarantine for 2 weeks. In Singapore, they put them up at the government's expense in these hotels. They bring them 3 meals a day. They let them watch, cable TV or whatever, and surf the internet. And then after 14 days, if you're fine, they spring you. And they've had, I don't know what the numbers are, but extremely low numbers relative to ours. They do that in Taiwan. They do that in a number of places. So I think the biggest thing is, we let Americans return home, or Americans who were living there, go to the United States with almost no barriers whatsoever. I mean, there were reports, and I don't know if they were doing some screening at some ports of entry, but there were many anecdotal stories about people walking off the plane and just leaving the airport without anything, without even being asked if they had been exposed to people with COVID, without being asked if they had been to COVID hotspots, et cetera, without even a questionnaire, basically. So this is how we became the
hotspot,
the world's hotspot for a disease that started thousands of miles from our borders.
We're speaking with Joshua Holland of Alternate, The Nation, and the podcast We've Got Issues. You're watching Act TV. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, please. And thank you for the 40,000 plus people who have subscribed in the last couple of months. We appreciate that. Yeah, right, Josh?
That's impressive.
Thank you for undoing some of those lies. I don't know why I keep doing that. Kamala Harris called out the lies in the administration that this administration told in place of showing leadership that could have saved lives. I have the next clip. Let's play that and watching her call out some of these lies here. Oops. Technology looks fancy, but
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage to be a leader, speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker, knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked about
It is asking too much of the people. That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their parents and their children.
she makes an excellent point, Josh, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen her go a little bit further and talk about, Trump calling for people to open up blue states before his own recommendation to lockdown had expired. Him saying that masks may or may not work.
How about just pointing out even the fact that the reason he didn't say anything is really because he was concerned about the economy,
the stock market.
Right.
I really was looking for that the whole time. Unless I missed it, she did not reference directly Bob Woodward's recordings. I may have missed it. There was
No, I didn't see that either.
I believe I didn't rewatch it this morning. I didn't have time, but I just watching it in a normal way where, maybe get distracted. I didn't see any reference to that. And that's damning stuff because Trump was saying publicly, this is no more dangerous than seasonal flu. And he was telling elite journalists in Washington, D.C., it's a completely different story, that this was much more dangerous than the flu.
Josh, Kamala Harris has a history that Mike Pence rightly pointed out of being a very progressive member of Congress.
Or a cop, I don't know. It's hard to keep track.
Or a cop, whatever, either way. But she has voted in line with Bernie Sanders on a lot of things. I felt that she was slightly handicapped by not being able to say something like, well, global warming or climate change is actually really a problem. It's touching all of our lives. There's a potentially Category 4 storm in the Gulf as we speak. California is on fire, and borer beetles are eating the eastern forest or whatever. She could have thought of a third one. You know what I mean? And just really say, no, this is actually a problem. And whether Biden wants to ban fracking or not, which he says he does not want to do, we do need to both move to a green energy solution while making sure our economy doesn't crash in the process. Why couldn't she just come out and say more progressive things? I felt like she was handicapped in the debate because she wasn't able to really embrace truly progressive policies.
Yeah, what I think is happening is that the Biden team is constraining Harris. And it was troubling to me. There were two things. Let's talk about both of them. Pence constantly hectored her about wanting to abolish fossil fuels. I hope that at some point I see a Democratic candidate for in a general election who is not cowed by these kinds of attacks and says, you're damn right, we want to transition, reframe it from abolish to transition from fossil fuels, because it is insane and suicidal not to have that goal. And we will do it in a way that creates jobs, and the way that progressives talk about the Green New Deal, et cetera, et cetera. That was extremely disappointing that she didn't turn that around on him and say, look, you're in the pocket of the fossil fuel industry. And of course, this is something that we absolutely need to do. The other area where I found her to be defensive when I think she should have gone on offense. I'm sorry, there's a truck here. I'm doing this outdoors today for various reasons. Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Is when he continually asked her if Democrats would pack the court. And this I found really disturbing, that both Biden and Harris evaded that question. They dodged that question. And I think that I'll have a piece up at Alternate, a short post in a few hours, making this argument in more detail. But this seems to me to be an easy layup that you can dunk on, because what you say is, we're going to leave all options on the table, that we're going to watch closely at how Republicans handle the next few weeks. We're not going to tell you what we're going to do until we see how it shakes out, but we will do what we have to do to protect Americans from an activist Republican court taking away health care from 20 million people, taking away a woman's right to choose, exposing people to discrimination from insurance companies if they have pre-existing conditions, limiting Americans' right to vote. We will leave all of our options on the table and stop that from happening. And if that means expanding the court, if that means you should do not use PAC, if that means rebalancing the court, so be it.
How come no one called you, Josh?
We're going to watch closely. And you point out that there is not enough time to adequately vet Amy Coney Barrett, and that if they want to rush through an unvetted, or if they want to rush through someone who has not gone through a sufficient process, or just before or just after an election, when a majority of Americans say that the winner of this election should choose that Supreme Court justice, then we will do what we have to do to protect the American people. That's the way you do it. And I think that it was disappointing to see them both kind of run away from that question instead of go on offense.
I agree with you completely. And that is the kind of sort of direct, hard hittingness that I was looking for from Kamala, especially because Trump talked over Biden so much that he basically wasn't even able really to make a point. So I was waiting
Pence
for
did
her
that too.
Yeah, but she did get some of it out there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
did.
So I was hoping that she would use her time, her uninterrupted time, to really pound away at more directly at things.
Yeah,
like what you said. So it was.
Yeah, but I think that's
Biden.
I think that's the Biden campaign reining her in. I really do, because we watched the primaries. We know their backgrounds.
They're running on. Let's just calm down. That's their whole platform, is like, everybody.
Yeah.
It's just,
and
it's,
go
back to normal.
Politically, it may not be a bad pitch. It's always hard for me to criticize a candidate who's up by 9 points in the national polls, especially a challenger.
But really, isn't it just that Trump is down by 9 points?
Yeah, but I
don't see a lot of enthusiasm.
However you want to play that, there is a lot of enthusiasm against Trump. And yes. So if you're Biden and your strategic, vision is let Trump self-immolate, that may not be a bad
Working.
strategy.
It's working out.
It can be maddening for people like you and I, but it's hard to fault them too much considering where they are in this race.
Josh Holland, contributor to The Nation, alternate, and the host of We've Got Issues. We'll be looking out for your piece, as you say, coming out
this afternoon.
Yeah,
at some point.
About this. Thank you for joining us for this post-game show. I don't know what's next. Are they having a debate? Are they not having? I guess we'll find out. Who knows?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Thanks for having me, Julianna.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're watching Act TV. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. I know I ask you that a lot, but hey, I'm not asking you for money. I'm just asking you to subscribe and share us and send your friends. Thank you to all the new people who have followed me personally on the Twitters. I'm at Julianna Forlano over there. And Act TV is also on Twitch and on Facebook and everywhere they still let progressives and radicals, because some of Act TV is radical, I'm not gonna lie, still talk. So thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. We are off tomorrow. We'll be back next week. We will be back on Monday. We have some great guests coming on Monday. The authors of the new book that is called, we have Greg Palast coming on Thursday. Seth Shostak is joining us on Wednesday. He's from the SETI Institute. Tuesday, John Nichols of The Nation will be with us. And the authors of Bigger Than Bernie, Megan Day and Mika Utrecht, are coming on to talk on Monday. So don't miss any of that. I will miss you. And God knows where we'll be next Monday. I mean, every time I turn this thing off and don't come on live, the president gets coronavirus or some other weird things happen, So try to have a decent weekend. The news never stops. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.